Hello, everyone. Good to see you back. As usual, we're just going to give it a minute or two as everyone joins the call before we get started. Now, as usual, if you do have any questions or queries throughout this webinar, do please feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of the call, as well as the chat box if you want to sort of join in on the conversation. My colleague Ishan is on the call, so he's able to help with any queries you may have as well. Lovely. So I see everyone coming in. Brilliant. So I think we'll get started. So hello and welcome back to iSpy 360's webinar series. I'm your host, Frederick, and today is our Tips Tuesday session, where we're going to be discussing virtual reality and virtual reality headsets. Now, today, we are extremely lucky to have with us Mark Wynne, a recognized immersive content and realities expert with years of experience, ranging from CGI to cinematic films. He brings with him a wealth of knowledge and expertise from the VR world. Currently, Mark is developing niche 360 immersive video content across a spectrum of industries, with many of these becoming award-winning immersive experiences. His immersive work has featured in the media, including the BBC, Forbes, The Guardian, and many technical publications. Present clients include Rolls-Royce, Wildlife Trust, and Sandy Lane Resorts. Now, as Mark is someone who's been using VR headsets for the past 20 years, it's nice to have a guest with a broad perspective of the industry. So hello, Mark. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Frederick. Pleased to meet you.
Yes, wonderful. So my first question for you is, what is virtual reality and how does it differ from, say, a 360 virtual tour?
I think the main difference with virtual reality and 360 video is virtual reality is the ability, generally they're built in 3D environments, so they're CGI based, and it's the ability to freely move around that space, whereas a 360 video is more of a linear or a static journey. So it's a scripted path where you can't actually defer. You can still look around and you can still see everything that's going on, but it's a predefined route or a predefined location that you're looking at. Whereas a true VR experience is the ability where you can just grab hold of controllers and go wherever you want to go. So that's primarily the main difference. You tend to find VR is very 3D CGI, and the 360 video is video or stills or alike.
Wonderful. So when it comes to sort of virtual reality, what areas are thriving, do you think, in sort of the current moment?
Well, the current moment is obviously very different to where we were probably 6-7 months ago. I think before the introduction of where COVID has taken us and what have you, I think entertainment was very high. I think experiences and experiential, everything from tourist attractions to almost like theme rides and that type of thing were very, very, very popular. Obviously, that has had a massive dent on the industry in terms of, people can't travel, people aren't going out to attractions as much and more at home. And I think what started to happen is it's become more a case of how can industry benefit from the use of virtual reality and 360. So we've definitely found over the past 6-7 months, there's been a demand for live 360, whereby we can stream live 360 content from any particular location. We're also finding that training is becoming more prevalent and people are looking for doing online training through VR. And I think also as well that the whole world has possibly gone to a reset button, and empathy has become huge. So we've got some projects which are healthcare related, which encompass dementia and stress and alike, and just people are using these headsets to actually combat some of these illnesses which are starting to become more apparent.
Brilliant. It's something that's very sort of, I believe it's just changing the landscape of the world. We're really sort of seeing a better way to interact with each other under the sort of current conditions in place. Now, I hear you've, as I mentioned at the start of the call, you're working with a whole host of different companies. Would you be able to give us some information on the kind of projects you have going on at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the live, this is an exciting area for us because whenever we would do a 360 cinematic production, you can imagine we would go onto set, we'd have our cameras there, and we would have clients, and we'd have agencies, and everyone would be around the camera, and everybody wants to see what the camera's filming. So we've been doing a version of live 360 from years back, because obviously we have to distribute that signal from the camera back to a team that can monitor it. What's obviously happened recently is live has become more prevalent in the industry, whereby people can't travel. There's restrictions in place, close proximity and alike. So live has become a bit more of a demand. So one of the areas that we've pushed into and been pulled into, in fact, is the feature film industry. So we're very fortunate that we're working with a very large, well, probably the largest production, feature film production house on this planet at the minute. And what they're actually looking at doing is, typically when they would shoot a feature film, in the past, there would have been 300 people on set. And what they've had to do is reduce these numbers drastically. One, because of COVID, and people have to keep that 2-meter distance. Two, spread of virus, travel restrictions, whereby people from the States will be flying into the UK to be involved in the film, and vice versa, and other countries as well. So they can't do that. So the next best thing is to take a 360 camera and put it onto the film set and stream that live. So these people that can't be involved can still feel as if they're there, can still add their inputs, and can still see the process of what is going on. So the film industry is, to open up, they've have to hit a whole host of criteria, and they've looked to live 360 as a way of doing it. Even on one of the films that we're working on at the minute, the director and the DOP, and they're in gazebos, they're offset, they're not behind the camera, they're 50, 60 meters away, they're still there, and they will go in and make their adjustments, but they're monitoring everything on iPads. And the fact that a 360 camera is there, they can spin around and look around and see where lighting is, and see where this boom mic is coming over the top for that shot, and just checking things. But yeah, they're keeping their distance, and it's working well for them. And another area which the film industry is pushing into is location scouting. So when a film production wants to go into production, they need to find locations to film. Typically 10, 15 people would have all descended on a warehouse somewhere and made a decision. But that can't happen now. So what we do is we go out with a 360 camera, they're in our earpiece, and we've got a Peli case with a router and batteries and alike inside. And we walk around with the camera, and they're saying, okay, left, go and stand over there, show me the view there. And it's like we are, we're like a mobile Google Street View, but a Zoom call. So it's kind of, but then you look at that and you kind of go, well, that's how that industry is pushing us. And then we're having conversations with engineering and construction companies that their clients can't go to their construction sites. The stakeholders can't come and visit and see their progress. Or one of the engineers on site has a difficulty with some steel work or some HVAC that's clashing. Well, he can put a 360, or she can put a 360 camera in there and stream that information back to the design team at head office, and they get a full appreciation of almost being teleported into that area and get a feel for what's going on. And it's just so much better than just someone walking around with a mobile phone, because you feel inclusive, you feel like you've been teleported there.
As if you are exactly there.
Yeah.
Now with that, so then I'm sure the VR headsets you're using must be incredible, but could you give us a little bit more information about the history of that technology and where the VR headset has sort of come from?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to reminisce. I'm going to show my age, actually, which is not a good thing. But no, my background is I used to be a 3D modeler, 3D artist. So I've been in the world of doing true VR, CGI, and alike. And probably about 20 years ago, we used to use headsets, and these were probably about that big on your head, and almost wear a neck brace to support the things. The picture quality was terrible. You kind of look at it now and you kind of go, why? And then you'd used to have a big silicon graphics Onyx machine that was the size of a fridge freezer to power these things. And that was the early days. And the headsets have become slicker. I think Oculus, I think they introduced, when they did their Kickstarter campaign back in 2012, they were the groundbreakers. That was the first kind of vision of what a headset was all about. And then obviously they rose to fame. I think it was in about 2014 when Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook fame, I think he paid, all in all, it was about a $2 billion deal to acquire Oculus. And obviously then Facebook owned Oculus. So now there was a big buzz in the industry to kind of say, okay, well, Facebook have got this, they're a big driver in industry. Where's this going to go? And then I think we've seen year on year, like the Oculus 2 has only just come out in the last week, which is better performance. You can get greater resolutions in there. And I think we're striving all the time. Sometimes headsets can be a blocker to the content. Some people don't like to put them on. So it's not the be all and end all to have a headset. But I think the way the industry is going, and you look at Apple entering into the whole AR and VR kind of market, and you look at the Microsoft HoloLens, which is semi-transparent, you are going to end up with almost like a glasses type of environment where I would imagine I don't know whether you've seen those squash courts where you can play squash and and it can be glass 1 minute and transparent the next. I think you'll have something like a shutter control whereby you can watch just on a small glasses. That's where it will end up. It will end up there, or it will end up, augmented and overlaid onto data or alike. But yeah, the headsets have come a long way in 20 years, and they're just getting smaller, better quality, easier to use, which I think is important, and I think easier to wear. As I said, I joked when I first started talking that I used to have to wear a neck brace. I think even the early Oculuses, they would get hot, and you would only want to wear one for 15 minutes tops. But I think now with the comfort and how cool they feel, you can wear them longer. And I think, with the world of gaming and alike, you've seen children playing on their PlayStations with headsets on and alike, and they're there for hours. They're just becoming more comfortable to wear, I would say.
And that's it, with comfortability, greater accessibility, more users. And with those advances in technology, where do you see the VR industry sort of going in the next 5 to 15 years?
I think the VR industry, obviously, I think what's happening with the industry is the whole realities. I think, I remember going to a talk probably about 2 years ago, and somebody started talking about AR, MR, XR, and I didn't know which R I actually belonged in anymore. And I think what's happened is the virtual reality has gone off one way, the mixed reality has gone another, augmented has gone another. I do think they'll come back. I do think the realities will start to come back slightly, because I think VR will start augmenting data, even though we're still virtual, but I think it will be augmented. I think the mixed realities is a mixture of the two anyway. So I think for me, virtual reality has gone down one path, augmented reality has gone definitely down another path, but I think they will I think there'll be fusions along the way. And I think it's just that they're finding their own identities type of thing. I think virtual reality, people just associate the fact you've got to wear a headset, and it's not that. You can do this on an iPad, you can do this on a mobile phone, you can go into a dome, or a cylinder, or wherever you want to go, or on a projection unit. And I think, it's just a misconception, I think, with the headset, that people think that as soon as you put a headset on, it's virtual reality. But then augmented reality is going to be where you wear glass. But as I said before, if you get a shutter that controls glass and then you could wear the same device that does augmented and virtual. So that's where it might come back together.
Definitely. And as sort of mobile phones become smaller and smaller, do you think that same sort of thing could happen with VR headsets as well? The technology sort of shrinking in its accessibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the emergence of more of a glass, a pair of glasses. You know, I think if you look at what Snapchat did a couple of years back, they brought out their glasses and you could take photographs and do all of that sort of thing. And in that, when you look at camera technology, how small cameras are getting now, you know, I think on the windowsill there's a little 360 camera up there. It's a GoPro. You know, 5 years ago, I'd have to have 6 of them all in a cluster, and it was so big. So everything is getting smaller and very much easier to use. But I think people have realized that sometimes when you've got a headset on, it's a cumbersome item, and some people just don't want to wear them. You know, it can be a blocker to entry. And I think the more fashionable, the more comfortable they are to wear, the more that you look normal wearing them, people would be easier to, you know, to take one and try them on. You know, I've seen at trade fairs and conferences, you know, I'm not like that. If I see, I'll want to see the content, but that's me. But I have seen people just walk past because they just don't want to be seen with a headset on. You know, and they're just, you know, it's just a little bit of a stigma that's attached to them. And again, you know, just in the world that we're in at the minute with COVID, you know, I think at a conference and alike, if people are trying on headsets, and obviously you can sterilize them, but, you know, will people do that? You know, even though they are being sterilized, will there be a stigma attached to headsets a little bit? So I think the more personal devices where you might have a pair of glasses that are linked to your mobile phone, a little bit like your Apple Watch. Your Apple Watch is linked to your phone. I think you'll end up with a pair of glasses which will be powered off your smart device, and you can put them on, and they're your personal device, and that information can be passed to you or streamed to you and accepted that way. That's a few years off, but that's, you know, if you're saying what's the vision, I would think it would be close, somewhere down that route.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned earlier the entertainment industry and how they're using VR behind the scenes, but do you think sort of virtual reality and headsets could become a part of sort of the on-screen experience of digital entertainment?
I do. You know, we've produced a number of experiences which have got motion in them. We did a car commercial a few years back, and that was with a creative agency in London, and the brief was to take this to the Paris Motor Show for the launch of the vehicle. And what they basically did is they took the the audience on a journey through Barcelona, and you basically then, when you went to the Paris Motor Show, you sat on benches, all put a headset on, and you all tilted and twisted on the bench. And when everyone took the headsets off, they were like, "Oh, this is great!" You know, almost forgot about the car launch and just remembered the experience. There's another company that we've done content for that they have seats at various theme parks around the world, and you go and sit in the seats. You put a headset on, and you pay for the attraction, and then it flies you through the ocean next to humpback whales, or it might fly you through a rainforest, or wherever it so be. So those sort of attractions where you've got movement, I think that's where VR comes into itself. I think going to the cinema and putting a headset on would be difficult or odd, because you would have 20 people all with headphones on, not included. And that's where I think domes and immersive cylinders and alike offer a better opportunity for interaction, because you can see more people and you can see people's reactions to things. So if you saw something in the film that happened and everyone was looking over there and they all smiled, then you know you've got that connection around. It's like being in the cinema. But yeah, I do think more immersive cinema is something which the industry will look at and might go down. It may well be like a 180-degree curved or a 270, so it's your full peripheral vision, so you feel really immersed in that action. That could be something. I know there are people looking at it. I know the IMAX have done something similar, but whether that's taken off, but whether the cost to entry was too great at the time, and obviously as we get more computer powers to make things easier and everything else, maybe that might happen.
And do you think there are any other applications for VR besides the entertainment industry? Do you see anywhere else it might be picked up?
Yeah, just looking at some of the work that we do in here, we do a lot around training. I think, again, it goes back to the headset and the isolation as opposed to being on an iPad or a dome. I think with training, it's very powerful for empathy. Some of the training that we've looked at and got involved with has monologue. So it could be somebody who is being taught how to give an annual review. And what it might be is that person puts a headset on and they're in that other person's shoes. So they then see somebody on the phone and they go, this is my annual review. And they're on the phone. I've waited 12 months for this annual review, and he's on his phone or she's on his phone. That's not on. But you become that other person. So you're hearing monologue voices of what that person is thinking. So it makes you think differently as well. So I think empathy is a big one. Obviously, we know it's been used in lots of charities and alike to put you in someone else's shoes. So, for example, we've got a script that we've developed here, which is for the homeless. But you actually become a homeless person. So you see what it is like to be in that homeless situation, the perspective, the viewpoints, how they're treated, what people are saying, and alike. And once you view that and you see that, it changes your opinion because you've seen it from someone else's perspective. And I think that's where headsets are very, very powerful, because it locks you in for that period of time and isolates you from the rest of the world to concentrate on that. But yeah, training is a big one. I think education, I think will become bigger. I think trips for school children, for learning and alike, are going to be reduced. So going to a museum, which would have been normal, is not normal anymore. I think educating children in a different way. Can they be stimulated if they're in a classroom 24/7, if you like? No. Can we take them to the pyramids and teach them about the Egyptians? Can we take them to a rainforest and teach them about the precipitation or wherever, or vegetation or biology or wherever? So I think education is a big one. And obviously entertainment, I do think the entertainment side of things is an escapism. So I think it's the ability for someone who wants to put a headset on can be teleported to Iceland and fly over waterfalls and just relax, be therapeutic, which one of the other areas that we've looked at is the healthcare, so stress related therapy and alike, and dementia. We've done some films around dementia, which have proven to be very, very popular because it brings us a bit of comfort to those who are suffering.
Certainly. Now, when it comes to sort of the real estate industry, do you think VR headsets could also play a major role there?
Absolutely. I think the way which I would say, I think you've got different flavors for the real estate industry. I would say, we've all heard that when you've got the chance to give an elevator pitch, you've got 60 seconds, you're in an elevator, go. And I actually think if you can get someone in a headset, that's almost like your 60-second elevator pitch, because the individual is blocked off from the outside world. They've got headphones on, and you've got 60 seconds to sell them a new development, show them an existing development, a commercial or wherever. And I think headsets are very good for locking somebody in and getting that attention. And I think definitely for real estate, it will work. I don't know how well it would work for first-time buyers. I'm going to go back again in time now, probably longer than 20 years. But I remember when my wife and I first bought our house. I don't know whether I'd be quite happy putting on a headset now, and she put on a headset alongside me, and we went through a real estate property we were thinking of buying, and then we both took our headset off and said, "What do you think?" And then, I think it's going to be more inclusive. And that's where an iPad or something, something that you're sharing is probably better than a VR headset. But yeah, definitely, each has their own needs and purposes.
So when it comes to virtual tours, do you think that this sort of medium of viewing a property could actually replace in-person house viewings in the future?
I think it will. I think, definitely from what we're seeing in other industry sectors, like site visits and construction sites and alike, 100%. I think people will do more virtual tours to find a property that they like. which will then qualify them better. So when they want to go and see it, they've almost got that short list down. That, I guess, you know, if I was looking for a house now, I'd probably have, you know, my wife would come to me with 12 houses and I'd say, well, which one do you like? And we'd narrow it down. But I think virtual tours help you narrow that down without endless visits. So you can really kind of fine tune what you're looking for. And I think obviously the restrictions in travel, you know, it's kind of like anyone that's got an overseas property, we can't travel at the minute. So it's kind of like, if you're looking to make that investment or a property comes available, then a virtual tour might be the only way that you can get to view that property, you know, to have a look and see what it's about. So yeah, I absolutely think virtual tours have got a big future going forward, because I think this is the new way of working. This is how we're going to work carrying on forward. It's, you know, I see so many news articles and so many conferences where people say, you know, working from home is the new. Conference calls, Zoom calls, you know, how many of us were doing Zoom calls 12 months ago? Now it's just every day, you know, so it's a different way of working, and that's how we are.
It's almost like the next step of the internet. When the internet first came, it was sort of knowledge became accessible to everyone. But with virtual reality, it's now space and places are becoming accessible to absolutely everyone.
No, absolutely. And I think that, you know, in the world of property, even let's say, you know, we've used virtual tours to decide on which property that we wanted, and we've made that purchase. Yeah. You know, I then want to know how big the rooms are, how big are the curtains, how big a door open, how big are the kitchen. Well, the beauty of the virtual tours is you can go in and you can get these sizes, you can get these measurements, you can get the floor plans. So normally you'd have gone back to the property and asked the owner or the tenant, can I go in and take some measurements? You don't need to do that now. And I think that's what's so nice, is you can do that visit, that virtual visit, whenever you feel like. You know, it's a reference, but because it's virtual and you're there, you can look around everywhere. So something that you might have missed on an actual visit, a virtual tour could actually give you a lot more. You know, I don't know whether insurance companies are going to start looking at virtual tours a lot more, because it's a reference of what is there. You know, whether they can get out to all these properties and see what it's about. It might become a policy that they say, we need virtual tours as part of your policy, so they can see what's there. So when you make a claim, was it actually there in the first place?
Definitely. Now, we've had a whole host of questions sent in by our audience. So is it all right if I just ask you a few of these?
Well, they're not difficult, yeah.
Well, our first question is, how do you make VR content for the headsets?
It depends. So if you're doing this for 360 video, or if you're doing it for a 360 virtual tour, you would take a series of photographs or a series of video. So generally, you would have multiple camera lenses all around, and they all film and capture at the same time, but different angles, and then you have to stitch all of that together. So that is how you would create a virtual tour or a 360 video. If it's virtual reality and a 3D model, you have to model it. You have to almost like taking a blueprint from an architectural drawing, scale everything up and apply textures and put virtual lights in there and alike to give you that kind of environment. So the two are very, very different. And I think, you know, in terms of the virtual tour side of things and the 360 video, I think it's critical of the camera placement. So if you were going into a particular area, such as a lounge, you don't just want to put it slap bang in the middle. You might see that there's a nice vista through one of the windows. You might see that there's a nice angle. The light might be coming. So you have to look kind of a little bit artistic and just kind of say, well, I think this is the best position and alike. Also, what you might find as well is times of day. You know, it might be to sell a property. The sun comes around on that property past, you know, midday, and it looks a different place in the afternoon than what it does in the morning. So, you know, show off the best of what you can and capture it at the right time. So, yeah.
Definitely. And I will say to everyone watching, we do also have our fantastic best practice guide, which goes through exactly as Mark said, all the sort of best places to place your camera when taking your photos, just to make sure you're getting the best results for a tour. So our next question, and I love this, this is brilliant, very sci-fi. Is VR a step towards the holodeck in Star Trek?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny. There is a lot of references to films, and what I would say is, we all watch Minority Report, and we saw people moving things around on the screen and alike. I would guess that 50% of your audience have got touch tablets on their laptops and using iPads, and that's exactly what we're doing. Different style. It's not, transparent, holographic, and everything else, but that is the step of what we're doing. So I do think we are at this kind of teleportation, sort of Star Trek-y sort of environment whereby we will end up there. It might be that the futuristic real estate agent might be, so somebody comes in or they send a package to their home, and there might be 5 doors in front of them. And those 5, they enter, each door is an entry into a property, and then they have that virtual holodeck tour, as you say. So yeah, it's not a daft question. And I just know that where we've been in the last kind of 10 years to where we've got to now, and where we're kind of going much faster, these things are coming quicker.
And that's the really exciting thing, how the world is just changing so quickly. And I think even though the coronavirus outbreak has been so difficult for a whole host of reasons, it's really forced us to adapt and sort of think forward. I wonder whether it's almost fast-tracked lots of technological developments just so we can all manage working from home, keeping social distance, and keeping everyone safe.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that statement.
Now, our next question is, how much does a good headset cost?
Okay, well, if you bear with me, we've got, this is the Oculus Quest. I think this was probably about 12, 18 months. Still use this, this is a daily one that we use. I think this retailed at around £299. Pounds, so in dollars probably about $350, $399. And then the new headset, which has just come out, which is the Oculus Quest 2, better resolution, better quality, that retails in at $399. So you kind of, you're sub $500, sub £500, gets you a good headset. The beauty of these two headsets that I've just pointed out here, these are what we class as an untethered headset. So you can just put them on, have the controllers, and away you go. Other headsets are tethered. So you generally have a cable that is connected to a computer. They're generally better resolution and they do different things, and you can do much more with them. But I think for your virtual tours and your property development, an untethered headset such as the Oculus Quest or alike is just perfect.
Brilliant, excellent. So one of our members has asked, do you think it's worth the investment into a VR headset for real estate purposes?
I do. I think, as I said, if you've got that elevator pitch, and let's just say you've got a new development at the end of town or wherever, and you might have a 360 video or a VR 3D model, and you have someone that walks in and you know that you've got them for a short space of time. If you can put that headset on them for 60 seconds, you've got that perfect audience, and that might just be the deal breaker. A $300, $500 headset might be that quick win to put somebody there and to give them that vision. So 100%, I actually truly believe in the headsets. If we're pitching to a client, we will take a headset with us. We might not use it, but if it's there and the opportunity arises, I'll make sure that client puts that headset on, because I know I've got them then. It's because I know as soon as they take it off, the awe that is on their face, they're like, I wasn't expecting that. Wow, I felt like I was there. And that's the thing. But again, this is where there is a slight stigmatism to people wearing headsets. If someone hasn't wore a headset before, sometimes they'll say they have, and they really haven't. It's just people, and people just don't like things close to their eyes. Again, this is the third reference to my age, which is terrible. But I remember growing up that I used to watch TV, and my mother used to say to me, "Don't sit so close to the TV because you'll get square eyes." Well, now we're putting screens inches away from our eyes, sort of thing. So yeah, it's headsets. They are great.
I think because they're so new, there are a lot of people who just aren't familiar with it. But as more and more that accessibility comes up, more people use it, suddenly it'll be seen, oh, actually, this is normal. It's like putting on a pair of glasses.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think as they get smaller, that will definitely happen. And I think if they are linked to mobile phones, smart devices, yeah, will 100%.
So our next question is, do you think VR headsets will completely replace our current sources of entertainment? So like TV, film, video games?
No, no, I don't. No, I don't. I think they will accompany and they will sit side by side for different reasons, but they won't, I don't think they'll replace. Don't watch this back in 20 years and prove me wrong, but I honestly don't think they'll replace. I think one of the trends that we're seeing in the whole immersive environment is, whilst the isolation is great for different purposes, I think the inclusion of multiple people watching the same immersive experience is also equally as important. So I think for that reason, headsets will become really great, really cool, and everybody will be in them. But I don't think it's going to replace what we know as TV and cinema. But I think TV and cinema will change.
Mm. Well, there's a really interesting psychology behind having multiple people inside a space and actually being able to see other people, feel their responses. You almost have ripples of emotion move through a crowd. It's like being at a football game or at the theatre. And I think while VR does so much to sort of put you there, you lose that shared experience. So no, I agree. I think it would be a case of it's another option, like sort of 3D films are, but rather that than a complete replacement.
Yeah.
So our next question perfectly leads on is, how do you overcome the social isolation element of VR headsets?
That's a good one. I think the social isolation of the VR headset is one of the way that which you can overcome it is to, if you've got multiple people in a headset, is you can multicast. So multicasting is where you can distribute that same signal to, more than one headset. So you could have 20 in the room, and that headset is multicast and everybody is able to watch the same content at the same time. And I think to get that inclusion is when you take the headset off, people's reaction to the person next to them. So a little bit like you've just mentioned there, or a football game or a like, it's to get that kind of interaction from the person next to you. So whilst you are isolated watching the content, you can do it that way. I know that there are VR environments where you can go into a 3D world and you see avatars of yourselves and interact with them and everything else. They're becoming quite popular online, especially around exhibitions and conferences that you can't attend. I know some manufacturing and products are creating virtual pop-up stands in virtual worlds, and you go and speak to someone, but you're almost talking to a computer-generated avatar and interacting with them and alike. So the inclusion then is you are actually seeing somebody else within your headset. Mm. So, that will happen a little bit more, I think, as well.
Wonderful. So our next question, I think, also leads on from this sort of mindset. Will Ready Player One become our reality? And is that a good thing?
If you ask my children, it already is. They're heavily into their gaming, and they get carried away. Sometimes they come down and wash the dishes, and I'm sure they're still playing computer games in their heads and smashing things around. I think that the reality of it is that the technology that we're using, and you look at everything, from autonomous vehicles and alike, we are going down that route. It's going to come to the stage whereby, to view a property, it might be that there is, in years to come, an autonomous camera that goes into a property, scans it all for us and builds a 3D model, and we're there. We can then just have reference of that, and then we can just call that up as a Google Street View and go and view it. So yeah, Ready Player One, big step, but so was Minority Report, but we're already there. So yeah, it's a frightening world.
It's exciting, though. I think we are moving towards so many different evolutions in the technology. I mean, our next question, someone's asked, do you think they're going to make a VR bodysuit next?
They are, well, there are bodysuits out there. We've seen haptic devices, where you wear the hands and you get touch. So in a VR, you can put a glove on, and as you touch something and grip, you feel like you're holding a wrench or a valve or wherever you're kind of operating. So the haptics for gloves and alike are already there. The bodysuits are happening. I know in computer games at the minute, they've got these treadmills, so they're called Omni treadmills. So again, I'm not a gamer, but just making reference to Call of Duty, it's a case of you put a headset on, you go on a treadmill, and you run on the treadmill. But it's omnidirectional. You can just run around and do whatever you're doing in that game. It could be whatever game that you're playing. It could be a sports game, or it could be a fitness program, or wherever it is. But yeah, that combined with a bodysuit, so when you're interacted within that game, you can feel pulses and tension on the bodysuit. So you actually feel as if the body is being impacted in different ways. So yeah, bodysuits are there. I think, I've just mentioned the computer gaming industry. There are other industries which we won't go into, which are using bodysuits for different reasons.
Well, I think the treadmill is a great idea. It's perfect cardio while playing a game.
Yeah.
So our last question is, how would you sanitize headsets between clients? Do you know sort of the best sort of practice in doing that?
Absolutely. So there's two schools at the minute. The headsets that we use, the first thing that we do is we take the foam, or we cover the foam with a UPVC or a leather kind of cloth strap when it touches the face. What we can then do is use antibacterial wipes and wipe them down. That is one method, but that is then down to how well you clean it. The other method is you can get these small devices which are almost the size of a desktop printer, like a small microwave in effect, like that sort of size. And you can put the headset in there, you close the lid, and it fires ultraviolet light all around the headset. And obviously ultraviolet kills germs and everything else. That's a better way of doing it, in my opinion. A little bit more costly, but ultraviolet is, and these devices are available. I'm pretty sure if you Google them, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but they are there.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming along to today's session. It's had so much great information, and I think both myself and our audience are going to have a great understanding of VR headsets and where we're sort of going with this technology. So thank you for joining me.
No, brilliant. No, I really appreciate it, Frederick. It's been nice. Had a little trip down memory lane with some of the questions and answers. So, but no, if it's a bit of use to your audience and it just points them in the right direction, that's what these things are about. So now I'm more than happy to be involved.
Excellent. Well, again, it's been a joy having you. Now, I do see one of our last questions we've had is being asked about where to access the previous sessions in our webinar series. Now, these are currently being edited, but they're going to be available very soon on our YouTube channel. So we'll make sure to send out an email to everyone who's on our webinar series so you can go back and watch this session with Mark or any of our previous sessions. Now that concludes today's Tips Tuesday. We're going to be back again on Friday for our Future Friday session. So do come along to that. That will be 5 p.m. BST and 9 a.m. PST. But otherwise, have a wonderful week. Do please stay safe and stay healthy out there, and have a really wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.